I really said that. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her, "Your husband says you don't suck it like I do, and now look at me. Blocked on everything, while he's out there playing house with his wife, like nothing ever happened between us." I'm Kendra, 28, and this whole mess started about 8 months ago when I got this new job at Millbrook Insurance downtown. First day, I noticed him, Derek. Tall, well-dressed, with this confidence that made everybody in the room pay attention when he talked. He was the regional sales manager, and I was just starting as an account specialist, so he wasn't directly my boss, but he was definitely up there. I wasn't even looking for anything when I started, but there was something about the way Derek looked at me during that first team meeting. I caught him staring 3 separate times, and each time he didn't look away like most men do when they get caught. He held my gaze, with this little half-smile that sent tingles straight through me. After the meeting, he made a point to come introduce himself, asked about my background, told me his door was always open. I noticed the wedding ring right away, but honestly, that didn't stop me from noticing everything else about him too. For the first few weeks, it was just casual work conversations. He'd stop by my desk to check in on the new hire, bring me coffee occasionally. Then came this company happy hour at Brewster's, this bar around the corner from our office. I wore this tight red dress that I knew looked good on me. We ended up sitting in this corner booth, talking for hours after everyone else had left. He told me about how his marriage had gone cold, how they were basically roommates at this point, sleeping in separate bedrooms. Classic stuff, right? But the way he talked about it so raw and vulnerable had me believing every word. That night, we didn't cross any lines, but something had definitely shifted. The next week, he asked if I wanted to grab lunch, and suddenly we were having these private little meetings at this small cafe 2 blocks from the office, where nobody from work ever went. Then one day, after about a month of this dance we'd been doing, he asked if I'd help him prepare for this big presentation after hours. I knew exactly what was up, but I went anyway. The office was empty by 7 p.m. when I walked into his corner office. I barely got 2 sentences out before he was standing behind my chair, his hands on my shoulders, asking if I was tense. Next thing, we're making out against his desk, his wedding photo lying face down where he'd knocked it over, reaching for me. I'd like to say I hesitated or thought about his wife, but I didn't. Not even for a second. After that first night, we started this whole secret routine. Late work meetings, weekend emergencies he needed my help with, business trips where he'd somehow arrange for me to attend. He was careful, always was. Different hotels each time, paying in cash sometimes, making sure we weren't seen together outside of work contexts that could be explained away. He'd tell me things about his marriage I'm sure his wife would have died hearing. How she never initiated anymore, how she'd gained weight after their second kid and just let herself go, how she was so focused on the kids she forgot he existed. 3 months in, things started getting more serious between us. What began as just physical turned into something deeper, at least. That's what I thought. Derek started talking about his future, saying things like, "When this phase of my life is over," or "once I figure out the right timing." He never directly said he'd leave her, but he planted these seeds that made me believe it was just a matter of time. I started picturing what it would be like to be with him for real. No more sneaking around, no more being the secret. Our relationship shifted from just hookups to long talks about our dreams, our childhoods, our fears. I started keeping a toothbrush at his favorite hotel, and he'd bring me these little gifts, nothing flashy enough to raise suspicion, but personal. A book by an author I'd mentioned once, my favorite snacks waiting in the room, this delicate silver bracelet that I still haven't taken off even after everything. I started rearranging my whole life around his schedule, canceled plans with friends because he suddenly had a business dinner he could skip out on. Stayed up till 2 a.m. on weeknights because that's when he could call after his wife fell asleep. My best friend Tasha tried to warn me, saying I was becoming his convenience. I shut her down quick. The truth was, I didn't want to hear it. I was already in too deep. The turning point came when he took me to this cabin upstate for a weekend. He claimed he told his wife he had a guy's fishing trip, and we spent 2 full days playing house. When Sunday afternoon came and he started getting quiet, checking his phone more, I felt this pit in my stomach knowing he was mentally already back with her. In the car ride back, I asked him straight up when he was going to leave her. He gave me this long speech about complicated finances and making sure the kids are in a good place first, and not wanting to hurt anyone unnecessarily. All code for not anytime soon. Then came his wife's birthday. He canceled our plans last minute, which wasn't unusual, but what got me was seeing the social media posts later. His wife, Amber, posting this whole photo spread of her surprise party that he'd apparently spent weeks planning. There he was, looking at her with this expression I thought was reserved for me, presenting her with this gorgeous necklace that definitely cost more than the bracelet hidden in my drawer. I threw my phone across the room and cried for hours. I started getting bolder after that, taking more risks. I'd drive by their house sometimes, just to see if his car was actually in the driveway when he said he was working late. I'd check his wife's social media obsessively, comparing myself to her in every photo. I knew I was crossing lines, but I couldn't stop myself. Then last month, everything blew up in my face. It started with this work conference in Chicago. Derek had arranged for me to attend, and we had it all planned out separate flights, checking in at different times, but sharing his room after hours. The first night was perfect. We ordered champagne, talked about how one day we wouldn't need to hide anymore. The next morning, I was still asleep in his hotel room when his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. He was in the shower, so I checked it. It was his wife, calling for the third time. Before I could think it through, I answered. There was this moment of silence, and then she said, "Who is this?" Something in me snapped. "This is Kendra," I said, my heart pounding. "The woman your husband's been sleeping with for the past 6 months." She didn't hang up like I expected. Instead, she got real quiet and asked if Derek was there. When Derek came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, I held the phone out to him and said, "It's Amber." The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint. He snatched the phone and went into the bathroom, but I could still hear him frantically trying to damage control. "Baby, it's not what you think. She's just a coworker. She's making this up." I expected him to break down, to finally admit it was over with her, to choose me now that there was no going back. Instead, he was frantically packing his suitcase, saying he needed to get home immediately to fix what I'd broken. Something in me broke in that moment. I blocked the door and screamed at him, asking when he was going to stop lying, when he was going to admit that what we had was real. He looked at me like I was crazy. "I have a family," he said, like I didn't already know that. "This was never going to be permanent, Kendra. I thought you understood that." I completely lost it. Started throwing things, the champagne glasses from last night, the hotel alarm clock, anything I could reach. When he tried to push past me to the door, I grabbed his phone and called his wife back. She answered on the first ring. "Your husband's a liar." I spat into the phone while Derek lunged to grab it from me. "He's been telling me for months that you two are basically over." Then I said it, the words I can't take back. "He says you don't suck it like I do." There was dead silence on the other end. Then his wife said, very quietly, "Put my husband back on the phone." I handed it to Derek, suddenly feeling hollow inside. He took the phone into the hallway, and I sat on the edge of the bed, the adrenaline draining out of me. When he came back in, he looked at me with such cold hatred that I actually flinched. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he asked, his voice shaking. 12 years of marriage. 2 kids. All of it at risk because you couldn't respect boundaries. He left me there in that hotel room, still wearing the bracelet he'd given me, surrounded by the mess I'd made in my fit of rage. I flew back alone, rehearsing what I'd say to Derek when I saw him at work. But when I got to the office the next day, his office was empty. Janet from HR called me in first thing and explained that Derek had taken a personal leave of absence. I tried texting him that night, asking if we could talk. Nothing. My message showed as delivered but not read. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. It was like he'd vanished from my life completely. I checked his social media accounts obsessively, but his profiles had suddenly gone private. His wife's too. I used to be able to see her posts, but now I was clearly blocked there as well. The silence was driving me crazy. Not knowing if he and his wife had split up, if he was fighting for his marriage, if he ever mentioned me again. 3 weeks after Chicago, I heard through office gossip that Derek had accepted a transfer to the Seattle office. Just picked up and moved his whole family across the country. The reality hit me like a truck. He hadn't just cut me off temporarily, literally moved thousands of miles away to escape me. That night, drunk and desperate, I created a fake Instagram account to check his wife's profile. There they were, this perfect little family touring their new house in Seattle. The caption read, "Fresh start in our new city, so grateful for new beginnings and second chances. Family is everything, and we." By the end of the week, I'd been fired. Company restructuring, they called it, but the timing made it obvious. I signed the papers numbly, packed up my desk with everyone watching, and walked out with what little dignity I had left. My entire career at Millbrook, almost a year of work, ended because I'd believed a married man's promises. With no job to give my days structure, I had nothing but time to obsess over Derek and his picture-perfect new life. I created multiple fake accounts to follow his wife's social media. I spent hours scrolling through their photos, looking for signs that they were struggling. But all I saw was this united front family hikes in their new Washington hometown, date night selfies with captions about reconnecting. 3 days of detox follow no social media, no alcohol, no wallowing. I was trying to move on, really trying. Then Tasha called. She'd run into Sharon from accounting, who mentioned that Derek was back in town briefly for a meeting with the CEO. 1 day only, tomorrow, in and out. She meant it as a warning, but my mind immediately started spinning with possibilities. The next morning, I positioned myself at the coffee shop across from our old office building, timing it so I'd be leaving just as the executive meeting would be breaking for lunch. I wore his favorite dress on me, did my makeup exactly how he liked it, and then, finally, I saw him, walking out with Ryan and 2 other executives, laughing about something. He looked good, better than good. Before I could move, a town car pulled up, and I watched as Derek checked his phone, smiled at something on the screen, and climbed into the car. He was less than 50 feet away from me, and he never even looked in my direction. That was 2 weeks ago. I'd like to say I've made progress since then, that I've accepted reality and moved on. Some days are better than others. I've started applying for new jobs, had a couple of promising interviews. I've deleted all my fake accounts for real this time and blocked both him and his wife on every platform. But I'd be lying if I said I don't still think about him every day. Wonder if he ever thinks about me at all. The hardest pill to swallow is that he seems genuinely happy with her now. It's like our affair. Rather than destroying his marriage, somehow made it stronger. All those things he told me about their relationship being on its last legs, was any of it true? Or was I just a temporary escape when he was going through a rough patch? Sometimes I'm angry at him for lying, for using me, for discarding me so easily. Other times I'm angry at myself for believing him, but mostly I'm angry at her, his wife. This woman who got to keep him despite everything. What does she have that I don't? Why was she worth fighting for when I wasn't even worth a goodbye text? My therapist says I need to forgive myself before I can truly move forward. But how do you forgive yourself when you're not sure you did anything wrong? He pursued me, he made the promises. I was just the symptom, not the disease. At least that's what I tell myself on the bad days. The truth that keeps me up at night is simpler. I wanted him, so I took him. Consequences be damned. I like the power of it being chosen over his wife, even if only for a few stolen hours. And now that it's over, now that he's chosen her after all, I'm left with this hollowness that no amount of rationalizing can fill. So here I am. Single. Unemployed. Still wearing this stupid bracelet even though I know I should throw it away. Still picking up my phone to check if he's unblocked me on anything. I told him, "Your wife don't suck it like I do," and now he's playing happy family while I'm blocked on everything. The irony isn't lost on me. I thought I had this power over him, this hold that would make him choose me in the end. Turns out the only person I had power over was myself, and I used it to blow up my own life.